War ends, he said, there will be American troops in Vietnam. There'll be more than 7,000 advisors who were there under the Kennedy administration, but he wouldn't specify how many more. Previously, he had indicated that even if the war were turned over entirely to the South Vietnamese, at least 200,000 American troops would have to stay on there until it ended. And today, he would not say how long any American fighting men would be in Vietnam when the war ends. Ambassador Lodge and Xuan Thuy, the North Vietnamese negotiator, had an exchange at the Paris peace talks today. What came out of the meeting was this. Thuy proposed that the United States sit down alone with the Viet Cong beginning tomorrow. Lodge turned that down. It has been proposed and rejected before. The United States, he said, will talk in private, but only with all parties. Meanwhile, the lull in the fighting continues, yet men were killed. Last week's casualty figures showed 84 Americans killed, the third straight week that fewer than 100 have died. South Vietnam lost 384 men, and enemy dead were estimated at almost 1,700. David?
The organizers of yesterday's moratorium called it a great success. As a display of public dissent, no doubt it was. But President Nixon is running the war, and he will decide when to end it and how, and he has not reacted one way or another. President Tu of South Vietnam was critical, saying the moratorium would only encourage Hanoi. Senator Scott, the Republican leader, said these were, on the whole, gentle people expressing a perfectly proper concern in the tradition of American dissent. Plans are already started for another moratorium on November 14th to last 2 days, unless there is real progress toward ending the war.
The Huntley-Brinkley Report is produced by NBC News and brought to you in color by Kellogg's. The best to you each morning. From Kellogg's of Battle Creek.
Remember Tom Harmon, the kid who had trouble keeping his shirt on? Well, now my grandchildren are pushing me around. You know, at my age, you have to live smarter if you want to stay on the young side. Sensible exercise and sensible eating, starting with a good breakfast like Kellogg's Product 19. The only cereal with 100% of the minimum daily adult requirements for vitamins and iron. Delicious, too. Want to get back on the young side? Start with Kellogg's Product 19.
President Nixon's economic advisors predicted the high interest rates and the high prices would soon begin to decline. They could not say precisely when, but they find in their economic indicators some evidence that the economy is beginning to cool down. After hearing that report from his resident experts, the president announced he would make a speech on rising prices and the cost of living and interest and the rest of it. That'll be tomorrow afternoon at 4 o'clock Eastern Time on radio, not television. One result of the high interest, the rising prices, and rising wages is a slowdown in the building of houses. Heavy construction is not yet affected much, but labor leaders in that field are afraid it won't be long. And that further complicates the conflict between whites and blacks over jobs in the construction trades.
Seattle's labor problems began 3 weeks ago. Blacks, demonstrating against discrimination by construction unions, got violent at a University of Washington construction site. Within 2 days, $90 million worth of construction jobs were shut down to prevent further trouble. After 2 weeks, the projects were reopened with a court order that 42 blacks be hired as trainees on the jobs. White construction workers didn't like this. Many of them refused to show up for work because the trainees were there. The blacks aren't satisfied with the solution either. The trainee program won't be carried over to other jobs when these end. Some of the trainees have already quit because they either don't like the work, the attitudes of the white workers, or because they say they aren't being trained.
First 6 days, we didn't do any work, just sit around. And then the day, they had me working out for a little while, for about a half an hour. It's just, you know, out there, it's just that people have a funny attitude, you know. They look like they hate you or something when you walk into the job, you know. They don't want you out there.
But I'm an apprentice right now, and I don't feel that they have the right to come in as a journeyman when I have to serve 4 years.
I had to pay to get into the union. I'm a hard worker. Why don't they get out and show us they can do the same?
I was in Idaho the other day. I'm not working right now, and they're shipping our colored boys without no classification, no wage scale. They just ship them out.
I've nothing against them working the union. It's not that. It's the way they're trying to do it. They want their cut right off the top.
We firmly believe there are negotiations to get more blacks into union apprentice programs. And the black protesters are waiting to see what happens. But white construction workers have organized to protest the trainee program.
Cavalcade and march to Olympia, Washington, and the governor's office. This is our next plan of action.
About 2,500 construction workers marched on the state capitol today, demanding the governor remove black trainees from the jobs. The governor doesn't have the authority, but the workers think he could do something if he wanted to. The march was noisy, but non-violent. These men are frustrated and angry because they think their lives and their jobs are being threatened by black people. The potential for violence in this dispute has been great. And if a march like this does nothing else, it provides a release for the anger of the white construction workers without bloodshed. Don Oliver, NBC News in Olympia, Washington.
The stock market had another neat little rally today, perhaps because there is some hope interest rates may soon begin to fall. Whatever the reason, it was a day of very heavy trading, more than 19 million shares, and the Dow Jones Industrials gained more than 8 points. The price of an average share rose 32 cents. In 4 days this week, that's a net gain of $1.44 an average share. Chet?
A Senate subcommittee hearing on automobile repairs today was told there is a shortage of trained mechanics. 2 automobile industry representatives said the shortage will become critical unless the image of the mechanic is changed. The image, they said, is that of a dirty hands job.
Do you have the courage to laugh out loud with your dentures? You would if you used Orifix, the denture adhesive that creates a perfect seal between your dentures and your gums. That holds no matter what you do. Orifix denture adhesive, the seal of confidence. It could give you a good laugh.
Oh.
From 1925 to 1969. After every performance, great beauties of the theater have always used Albaline cream to remove makeup. Albaline is the deep, cleaning facial cleanser that liquefies to cleanse and soften their skin, and now yours, Albaline cream, after your next performance.
Labor Secretary Schultz went before a House committee today and tried to convince it that President Nixon's welfare plan for a minimum annual income for people on relief is the best one around. There's a requirement in the law that people on relief who can work must work, and Schultz said it would be up to the states, not individuals, to decide whether the job offered was right. People on welfare insist for the most part that they're in no position to work. They're either mothers of young children or they're disabled. And they say the money they're getting is nowhere near enough. One of the states where they've been demonstrating to get even as much as they have received before is Wisconsin.
The protest started last August when the Wisconsin legislature eliminated about $24 million in state and federal funds from the welfare budget. Wisconsin's legislature is rural-oriented, conservative, and feels welfare programs are coddling, paternalistic, and encourage people to be lazy. Hardest hit by the cuts were families with dependent children, who will lose from $23 to almost $100 a month. Legislators say that even with the cutback, Wisconsin's payments are 6th highest in the nation and 20% above the national average. In Wisconsin, as in other states, about 95% of people on the welfare rolls are women and children, who for various reasons are unable to work. Many of them say they'd like to get off the rolls and into jobs, but they add it isn't that simple.
I would gladly go back to work. If I had someone, I could trust to see after my children. No. I just don't want anybody to come in to my home to see after them, and then I'm working and come home and find things different than what they're supposed to be. My children's half taken care of. No, Billy, no. They're not fed or properly seen after. And I like to know where they're at just about all the time. It'd be much better if, we could get out and work. Then things wouldn't be so tight. It's taken me about 6 months where I could get this dining set, which just cost $50, but there's quite a lot coming out of the budget, just for, one item. The pickles? The pickles? I've been on welfare quite a lot, off and on. That has helped me, but mostly I've tried to help myself.
I'd love to work, but by the time I would work, I am not experienced in anything, and by the time I would work and pay a babysitter, would give me nothing to live on. As far as clothing is concerned, I'm not able to go out and buy $3 or $4 dresses or anything. I go to the Goodwill where I can get a dress for my daughter for $1.49, maybe a slip for 30-40 cents. Shoes, I've always got to buy the 2 pair for $5, whether they're good ones or not. As they cut my welfare check that I do get now, will mean that my kids will go without heat because of having to have winter outfits to walk to school in. I haven't bought anything that I wanted in ages. It's quite a difference. And I mean, you tell the kids that are used to having different things, that they can't have it anymore. You can't afford it. You don't have that extra money to buy it. It hurts when you have to tell them that.
The Nixon program would provide $1,600 a year from the federal government. It's intended to set a national minimum, and particularly to help in the South, where state welfare grants are generally lower than in other states.
Billy and Reba Watts and their children have subsisted on welfare for nearly a year, since Billy lost his job running a grinding wheel in a factory because of a nervous disorder. They must pay for food and everything else they need on $164 a month she and the children receive from aid to families with dependent children, and $56 a month he receives for being disabled. They trade $72 of their welfare money for $100 in food stamps. The Watts family lives in a shack on a hill in poor Rabun County, Georgia, at the south end of Appalachia. There's no hot water. The toilet is in the backyard. The inside walls are flattened cardboard boxes. Cooking and heating are by wood. The family has a freezer bought on time with the approval of the welfare office. It stretches their food budget by preserving the vegetables they grow and the fish they catch. Billy and Reba dream of getting off welfare and having a better life.
I want to go back to work just as soon as I can. But the doctors told me there'd be approximately 3 years before he turned me loose, let me go back to full-time work.
So I'd like to have Bill to support us again. Makes me feel more like he cares more about me if he's supporting us and all. I guess it kind of hurt my pride a little when we went on it. We didn't want to, but we had to. We're behind on our rent. It'll take more every month to catch up on it. Well, we're paying $17 a month now, $15 rent, $2 water bill. And we've been told that the house is not worth that we should talk to him, have him cut down on the rent, or else let's get a place and move to a better place. like to have our own home. Something I've always wanted, just to know I had a place to keep them. If they ever left home and wanted to come back, they could. Well, I'd like to have a 4-bedroom, ranch-style home. I'd need at least 4 bedrooms in it. I like a big house.
Their hopes for a home and job are dreams unlikely to come true. Reba had a cancer operation recently. Billy may never feel well enough to work again. President Nixon's welfare proposals, if and when approved, would pay them only $15 more a month. Even if Billy could work and took training, jobs available around here pay only about $65 a week, not much more than welfare. So their life probably will never change.
If a man and woman or whatnot is happy, that's the most, I believe, is the most important thing.
Are you happy now?
Yes, sir. Yes, I'm happy with my family and all.
There's a lot that's dreary in my long day, looking for something to take me away. Been working all week with a dream in mind, a dream of escape of a great new kind. Wanna feel happy, wanna feel good. Now I found old escape machine, a great new cutlass called Supreme. When I'm driving free, everything looks fine, and I escape in this Olds of mine.
Hey, you want to escape to high luxury, down in a new size and price within your reach? Check out Cutlass Supreme. It's a new idea in young mobile thinking from Oldsmobile. They don't call it an escape machine for nothing.
You can be happy, you can feel good, really feel happy, really feel.
The Huntley Brinkley Report continues, brought to you by True Filter Cigarettes, with or without menthol. Shouldn't your brand be true? Today.
Someday, you'll probably smoke a cigarette that looks and tastes like this one. But why put it off? True is here today. Do it. Discover how True satisfies. Satisfies with good taste and reduced tar and nicotine. Shouldn't your brand be true today?
Thailand's Foreign Minister Tanat Koman returned to Bangkok today from the UN session in New York, and he said Thailand would have to do more to deal with the communists because it is clear to him American young people are increasingly impatient with the Vietnam War. So he said we should not expect too much help from the United States in terms of arms hereafter. He said he saw trends and attitudes in this country that meant very little support in the future for American troops in outside wars. So Thailand, he said, must do more on its own.
Thailand insists it can defeat the northern insurgents without American troops, but it wants continuing massive supplies of U.S. arms and equipment. Everything the Thais use today, from carbines to mortars, comes from the United States. 9 months ago, Thai leaders predicted the tribal uprising in the north would be quickly crushed. Today, at least a third of Thailand's army and paramilitary border police are tied down here. And Prime Minister Thanom says Thailand may need 10 times as many troops to finish the job. North Thailand isn't likely to become another Vietnam, but it will be a trouble spot for years to come unless the Bangkok government can win the support of the hill tribes. So far, the Thais have notably failed to do that. Two years ago, the Thai government began herding northern hill tribesmen into resettlement villages like Ban Hue San. The object is to insulate them from communist agents and stop the tribespeople from growing opium. Banhui San has 4 Thai policemen and 30 tribal self-defense volunteers. But many able-bodied tribesmen have gone back to the hills, some of them with the communists. Thai officials admit they can't rely on tribal militiamen. This is basically a racial problem that would take a generation to solve, even if Thailand's communist neighbors would leave it in peace. But they won't, so the problem of winning the hill tribe's allegiance is complicated. This is Wells Hangen, NBC News, at the Banhui San resettlement village in North Thailand.
South Koreans vote tomorrow on whether to change the law prohibiting a 3rd term for President Park Chung-hee. There are 15 million voters in South Korea. About 85% are expected to vote, and most reports indicate the president will be given the chance to run for another term.
South Koreans are voting on one single issue. They're being asked whether they approve changing their constitution to permit President Park Chung-hee to run for a 3rd term. President Park, South Korea's strongman, came to power 8 years ago following a military coup. He ruled 2 years as a general. Then he turned in his uniform and was elected president twice. His term runs out in 1971. Under President Park, Korea has made tremendous economic progress and has also maintained unprecedented stability. The campaign on both sides has been colorless. One reason is that when the National Assembly, dominated by Park's party, voted to hold the referendum, it also passed new voting regulations. Campaign posters and street demonstrations are prohibited. The use of loudspeakers is strictly limited. But there's no restriction on spending campaign funds, obviously a help to the well-heeled Democratic Republicans. Although things appear quiet, security forces are on the alert day and night. The North Korean communists continue to send agents south, looking for any chance to take advantage of political unrest. In the voting, President Park is expected to win his chance for a 3rd term. He still must get re-elected 18 months hence. And his future chances and the political stability in South Korea greatly depend on how fairly and cleanly the government conducts this voting. This is John Rich, NBC News, Seoul, Korea.
How you feeling, honey?
Awful.
Huh?
My nose is still stuffy and sniffling. I'm sneezing. My throat is scratchy and I'm coughing. I just feel like I wish I could get some rest.
Do you remember when I had my cold, sweetheart?
Yeah.
I took Vicks NyQuil, the nighttime cold medicine.
Oh, yeah.
NyQuil relieved my cold symptoms for hours. So I got the rest I needed. So I brought some NyQuil for you.
Oh, thank you.
All by itself, NyQuil relieves sniffles.
Sneezes.
Sneezes.
Stuffy nose.
Stuffy nose. Minor throat irritation. Coughing. Aches. Pains.
Everything I've got.
That's right. NyQuil relieves more major cold symptoms than the leading capsules do. And it relieves those cold symptoms for hours to help you get the rest you need. Now finish your NyQuil. You're going to feel better in the morning.
Oh, you're a good husband, Harold.
Vicks NyQuil, the one thing to take for your cold.
2 Russian cosmonauts, Konstantin Feoktistov and Georgy Byarzhevoy, are expected in New York City Monday to begin a 2-week tour of this country. Both are veterans of spaceflight. The Nobel Prize for Medicine was awarded today to 3 American scientists: Max Delbruck of the California Institute of Technology, Salvador Luria of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and Alfred Hershey of the Carnegie Institution. David?
They all laughed when the New York Mets stood up to play baseball, and until this season there was quite a lot to laugh at, laugh or cry. But this year something happened, and every other team in baseball would like to know what it was. Whatever it was, the Mets won the World Series today, taking the 4th game from the Baltimore Orioles. It may be hard to believe, but it's true. New York City sometimes feels it is coming apart at the seams because it has every urban ailment anyone ever heard of, and lately it has had not much to cheer about. But today, when the last Baltimore batter flied out to left field, the 100-to-1 shot was the winner. And here at Shea Stadium was the last out. Good night for NBC News.